Okay, go ahead. I think we're ready to get started.
Okay. Good morning. This is Chris Canini from GSA's Office of Government Policy. This is the FRPP MS Data Validation and Verification Process training session. Our training today is going to be conducted by Lalitha and Rachel. They'll go over the logistics of how the virtual training will proceed, and then we'll get started.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending this training. Again, it's the Federal Real Property Profile Management System Verification and Validation Process training. My name is Rachel Weimer.
My name is Lalitha Janamanchi.
And we will be co-leading the training today, as Chris said. We are from the User Productivity and Training Group, also known as the JEDI Group. And we will be stopping at various points during the session to answer questions. So please post your questions in the Q&A pod on the left side of your screen. And Chris Cunini will go ahead and address those as best as he can in the Q&A pod. And we will stop at various points to address them as well. And any remaining time at the end of the session will be dedicated to questions and answers as well. We have muted most of the attendees, but for those of you who have just called in, please mute yourself so that there's no static or background noises coming through during the training. And now, Chris, if we've addressed all the logistics, if you could go ahead and talk about the data submission issues.
Sure. I just wanted to provide some reminders as we are at the end of the fiscal year. And since we have agency administrators on the phone, I sent out a notice recently, but you may begin testing for those that submit via XML. You can test those files in the application now. I've had some people request, so I'm just giving you another reminder. There is no separate user testing site, but you can submit that and validate a file as many times as you want before you upload into your agency's data for the year, part of your inventory. So you can begin that now if you are ready to do so. Secondly, again, based off of feedback from last year's data submission in terms of access roles, agencies wanted people to be able to see both staged and uploaded data, but they did not want to make those people agency administrators. Based off of the feedback we received, we have incorporated the ability for a user to have both data submission and write privileges. To make that happen, though, I need to have an email from the agency administrator saying, make John Doe, Jane Doe, both a data submission and write user. So if you think you have that situation, the sooner you get me that list of names, the sooner I can submit those changes to the system. I just don't want people at the last minute to be held up with their data submission because the person does not have the needed privileges. So just wanted to throw those two reminders out before we begin the training session. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Lalitha and Rachel.
Okay, thanks, Chris. We'll go over the agenda first. Today we'll be talking about the purpose of this training. We'll provide an application overview, including the history, FRPP MS roles, the VNV process timeline. Then we'll talk about accessing the system, navigation of the system, and then we'll dive into the VNV process itself, which will include the 3 stages of VNV, existing business rule validation, how to run automated data anomaly reports, and how to resolve data anomalies. And we will have a live demo in the application that Lalitha will provide of those steps. Then she'll also provide a demo of the data anomaly resolution confirmation and show you how to access the data anomaly trending report. And then I will talk about the baseline setting and outcome measurement, which includes the agency V&D goals, GSA V&D monitoring, and how you can demonstrate V&D compliance. We'll provide some resources to aid you in the V&D process, as well as technical support information. And then, as I mentioned, we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So this training, along with the GSA FRPP verification and validation guidance and the FRPP MS V&D user guide, will assist agency administrators to successfully complete the V&D process. And that process has been newly added starting this fiscal year. So we'll provide the application overview and start with the history. On January 28, 2016, OMB released Management Procedures Memorandum 2016-01, and verify their federal real property profile data. Then on May 16, 2016, GSA, in coordination with OMB, issued federal real property data validation and verification guidance. This guidance establishes a required minimum validation and verification process for the 24 agencies subject to the Chief Financial Officers Act of 1990. It supports Executive Order 13327, Federal Real Property Asset Management, for annually reporting data on real property that is owned, leased, or otherwise managed by the federal government. We'll talk about the roles. While there are several roles for agency users in FRPP MS application, the roles we are going to talk about today are the only two that are involved in the V&V process. Agency administrators are responsible for generating data anomaly reports and then resolving the data anomalies, as well as providing confirmation of resolution to GSA. The FRPP MS system administrator has full access to the FRPP MS application and manages V&V functions. Are there any questions at this time about the roles involved in V&V process? Please go ahead and type any questions in the Q&A pod, and we'll address them as we go along. So for the timeline, the implementation of the new V&V process will begin on December 16, 2016, and every year thereafter. It has to be completed before October 15th of the following year, so it's a 10-month process, as you can see in this diagram shown. On December 16, 2016, agencies run data anomaly reports in FRPP MS. This will serve as the baseline for anomaly resolution and measure of data accuracy. Agencies will run data anomaly reports on December 16th every year after that. Starting on December 15, 2017, agencies must complete resolution of all anomalies identified in the FRPP MS data anomaly report from the prior reporting cycle. Agencies must complete 100% anomaly resolution by October 15th of every year. So we'll move into accessing the system. First of all, when you're ready to access the system, in your web browser, type www.realpropertyprofile.gov. In the screen that opens, type your username and password into their respective text boxes and then click the login button. The email address that is associated with your profile will be sent a verification code. So in the next screen that opens up, you will enter the code received in your email and then click the next button. This will take you to the home page of the FRPP MS application. So to navigate the system, There are several tabs in the FRPP MS application, but the tabs shown in the table on the slide are the most relevant to the V&V process. Those tabs include the Home tab, Anomaly First of all, the Anomaly Reports tab opens a page where you can generate automated reports in which data anomalies for your agency are identified. Starting December 16th of every year, agency admins can begin to generate the different anomaly reports. As I mentioned before, clicking the down arrow opens additional hidden tabs. Anomaly BNZ is one of those tabs. So what you can do on the Anomaly BNZ tab is that it opens a page where you can pull up your immediate and on-queue anomaly reports and edit the status of anomalies related to assets for the current fiscal year. And Lolita will be demonstrating all of these tools and activities. Now we'll dive into the V&V process itself. And there are three components of FRPP V&V. There are the existing business rule validation, automated data anomaly reports, and anomaly resolution. As illustrated in this diagram, the V&V process begins with agencies uploading valid data into the FRPP MS application. Upon confirmation, agency admins run automated data anomaly reports. If there are any anomalies, they are investigated and resolved in one of two ways. They are either affirmed or corrected. Once all anomalies are resolved, the process is complete. Are there any questions in the Q&A pod at this time?
No, none.
Okay. We'll talk about the business rule validation first. Starting October of each year, agencies will submit their data either via XML files or by manually entering it. The system automatically runs a business rule validation process. This is one of the first steps in the FRPP data submission process, which begins in October and ends December 15th of each year. Business rule validation ensures that all manually and XML submitted data elements comply with reporting requirements. In XML submitted data, by requiring that identified errors be corrected, the system ensures that only valid data is uploaded. Similarly, in manually submitted records, the system displays errors that must be corrected, thus also ensuring that only valid data is uploaded. Now, if there are no questions, I will let Lolita take over to do a demonstration of the next two components, running automated data anomaly reports and resolving data anomalies in the application. So I will stop sharing my screen and let Lolita take over here.
Thank you, Rachel. Before I begin the demonstration, I wanted to let you know, for training purposes, one, I'm going to be in a sandbox environment, and I also will be having certain access levels. So one, my please bear with me while I look for my agency, which is GSA, to look for data to display. And also, because I'm in Sandbox, certain things may not function as they should. So, but in your environment, they will work, in the real environment, they will work as they should. With that, let me begin sharing my screen, and let's get started.
And let me add, Lolita, while you're doing that, in the development sandbox, access to all agencies, as a user of the V&V tool, you will only be accessing the data that you have been granted rights to. So you will not be seeing anomalies from other agencies. So I'm just throwing that out because that came up during yesterday's training session.
As Rachel mentioned, the V&V process has three components. The first one is the business rule validation, which is already done. And the second component is the automated data anomaly reports. The data submission process ends December 15th, and agency admins can start running data anomaly reports as soon as their agency data submission process has been completed. Agency admins will generate automated anomaly reports after the data has been uploaded and confirmed. The system evaluates records for certain incongruities, and its data anomaly reports highlight those that warrant a second look. Reported anomalies are not necessarily incorrect. It simply may be that the data fall outside a range or that a combination of data elements suggests an unlikely scenario. To repeat, reported anomalies are not necessarily incorrect. While an anomaly may have an underlying data error, it may also have a perfectly legitimate explanation. So there are 26 automated data anomaly reports, 16 immediate reports, and 10 on-queue reports. Agencies must run each of these 26 reports individually. Let me show you how to run these. To run the anomaly reports, please click on the Anomaly Reports tab, which is right here. And this will take you to the Anomaly Reports tab page. And once you're here, click on the Individual Report sub-tab, which is the third of these three tabs. And this page is divided into two, the immediate reports and the on-queue reports. The immediate report section lists all the 16 reports, and each of these is a hyperlink. And when you click on them, it will take you to the report. So first, I am going to find my agency, which is GSA, and then click on the report hyperlink. And I'm clicking on the first one, which is lease expiration date change. This takes me to the report. And as you can see, there are 10 data anomalies for this report. And I can export this report. I can download this report. And to download the report, please click on the printable view. And this downloads the report as an Excel file. If you notice on the bottom of my screen, you can see that the report has been downloaded as an Excel file. Please do not click on the export details because it does not include the criteria if you click on the export details. So it is, please click on the printable view, and that downloads it as an Excel file. You will repeat the same for the remaining 15 immediate reports. For the on-queue reports, I need to find, again, my agency. Please bear with me while I do that. And then once I do that, you have to find, you start with the first report. Since I've already run a few reports, I'm going to find one that I have not run before, and then click on Generate Report. It takes a few minutes for the report to be run because it compares it against previous year's data. That is why these are not immediately available. And if you look at the status, it says queued. And if you look at the under report, it is not a hyperlink yet. Once the report is ready, this will change into a hyperlink, and you will be able to click on it to view the report. So I'm going to click on a previously run report, which is now a hyperlink, to show you what the report looks like. If you notice, there are no data anomalies in this particular report, so there is nothing to be resolved in this report. So I'm going to go back to the previous page, and if you look at the status now, it says it is queued. Earlier, it was, the status was different. Right now, it says it is queued. In a few minutes, once it is done, it will say completed, and the report will become a hyperlink. So as we were watching, the status now says completed, and the report is now a hyperlink, and I will be able to click on the hyperlink and be able to view the report. And this report also has no anomalies. There are 0 records. And should this report have had any records, I could have clicked on printable view, and it would have downloaded as an Excel spreadsheet. So this is how you run the 26 automated data anomaly report. Are there any questions, or would anybody like me to repeat how to run any of the immediate or on-queue reports?
Doesn't look like we have any questions yet.
So the next component of the BNV process is the anomaly resolution process. To begin the anomaly resolution process, and I am going to go to a different tab. So to begin the anomaly resolution process, click on the down arrow and select the Anomaly BNZ tab, which is this tab. You can resolve anomalies in two ways. Since I have all the agencies, I'm going to find my agency first. The first way is when you're in this tab, you will see all the anomalies listed right here. And you can start resolving the anomalies from here. And if you come to the bottom, you will notice that the number of anomalies, the total anomalies for your agency are listed right here. It may be really small for you to see, but it says 1 to 25 of 488. So the total anomalies for GSA are 488. And normally it lists 25 agencies per 25. Click on this, it will take me to the next 25 anomalies. And if I want to go to the next page, I click next again. So that, and to go back to the previous page, just click on previous, and it takes me to the previous page again. You can either resolve anomalies this way, look at all your anomalies at the same time, or you can pull them up by reports, which we had done, the 26 reports you ran in the automated anomaly reports. You can pull them up by each report by clicking on the down arrow right next to all anomalies and start pulling up them by each of the 26 reports. And what this does is it pulls up the anomalies by each report category. It simplifies it. What it does is that it helps with, it basically pulls up by the category of each report. There is no preferred way. It is up to you. You can either pull them all in one single go to start resolving them, or you can pull them up by report category, whichever makes sense, or whichever is easy for you to do, whichever is the preferred method for you to do. There is no preferred method, or there is no recommended method. To start resolving anomalies, once you have researched these anomalies and you know what the reason for the anomaly, what is the resolution, if it is not an anomaly and it is indeed correct, then you can say, select the anomalies, and if you know the multiple anomalies are all correct, then select the anomalies and say change status to affirmed. And if you look at those, if you notice, I had changed them to affirmed. Let me do those here so you can see what I just did. I'm selecting these 4 and changing the status to affirmed. If you notice, I had changed 4 of these to affirmed, and now these 4 show that they have been changed to affirmed. Now, in your research, if you find that certain categories or all, let's say all 25 of these square feet office anomalies are all of a certain category, then you can click this box on the left side of the action button and change all of them at the same time. Change status to affirmed. Takes a couple of minutes. Let me show you. And if you notice that was on the 3rd page. And if you notice the status, it now says all 25 are affirmed. This is how you resolve the anomaly. And if it is an error, you would change the status. To change status to error, CAS. CAS is changed.
Chris, CAS is changed,
Error changed in agency system.
System. Thank you.
Thank you.
Black there for a minute. So if you have changed the anomaly, and so for instance, let's say you have changed status to error, but found out that it is not an error, it is in fact you have to affirm it, and you want to change that status back or clear it, you would click the edit button for that particular data anomaly. And what it does is it gives you more information about the anomaly, and you will see the data anomaly status. And this is the page where you can clear the data anomaly status. What you would do is you would click the reset button, and this should clear the data anomaly status. As I said, I am in a sandbox, and sometimes the buttons do not work, and this is one of those instances. But in your application, the reset button will work. So click the edit button for that anomaly and click on reset, and this will clear the data anomaly resolution status. And it will clear it, and you will be able to put in the new anomaly status, resolution status. Are there any questions, or would anybody like me to repeat any of the steps?
I think we're good.
Okay. Once an anomaly is resolved, it will no longer count toward the agency's current anomaly total. In addition, the asset will not be flagged for the same type of anomaly during the subsequent years, as long as the value, including the underlying data elements at issue, do not change. Please repeat the process for all anomalies and ensure all anomalies in all reports are resolved to address all the identified data anomalies. And how do you make sure that all your anomalies are being resolved? There are a series of 4 reports that allow agencies to track your progress in resolving anomalies. And let me show you where these reports are. Please click on the Anomaly Reports tab. And the very first sub-tab, which is the Data Anomaly Reports, again, here there are 2 sections. Right now, we want to see the first section, which is the top section, which is Anomaly Reports. So we have some repeatable themes here. It's the Anomaly Reports, Data Anomaly Reports tab, and Anomaly Reports section again. There are 4 reports here, and they're all hyperlinks. These are the 4 reports that will help you track your progress in resolving anomalies. And the user guide has some very detailed instructions on what these reports do and how to run them. And we will be sending everybody the user guide and the slide deck that Rachel was using to show you. So after the training, you will be getting an email from Chris with the user guide and the slide deck. The next thing I want to talk to you is the data anomaly trending report. The data anomaly trending report identifies the count and both the accuracy of data submitted to FRPP MS and the methodology used to evaluate that accuracy. To run the data anomaly trending report, please click the Anomaly Reports tab, and in the first tab, which is the Data Anomaly Reports tab, come to the second section, which is the Trending Report section. And here, please click the fiscal year that you would like. And in my case, I need to pick my agency. And then click on the Data Anomaly Trending Report hyperlink, which is on the bottom left. And this brings up the Data Anomaly Trending Report. And you can run this report as many times as you would like, also to see the progress. Once you are sure you have resolved all your anomalies, run the trending report and click on the printable view, which will download the report in an Excel spreadsheet, as an Excel file. And please send this along with the certification letter, which Rachel will be going over in detail, signed by the agency CFO. With this, I'm going to hand this back over to Rachel, unless there are questions.
We have several questions, or at least one question about every anomaly has to be addressed individually, and that this could be a very time-consuming process for agencies that have thousands of anomalies. So if Chris, do you want to address this issue?
Yes. Lalitha, can you pull up that screen again where you resolve anomalies? All right, Marianne, to the left of the word action in the gray line, there is a box. If you click that, it will select the 25 records that are shown on the screen. This question came up yesterday about how many records can be shown at the same time. The default for Salesforce is 25 records being shown at one time. We did some investigation after the training session. The user has the ability to increase the number of records to a maximum of 200 at a time. So if you have a group for a certain agency or anomaly category that all will be resolved by making them affirm to be correct data, or they all have errors, you can click either the box to the left of action, which will pre-select the buttons for everything being shown from 25 to a maximum of 200, and then you can click either click status to affirmed or click status to error corrected in agency system. We will be following up with detailed instructions for users on how to increase the response or increase the records to that maximum of 200. So yes, I fully appreciate that DoD does have probably thousands of anomalies. So you can correct them at a maximum of 200 at a time.
Thanks, Chris. Are there any other questions that people want to post at this time? If not, I'll share my screen again. And we'll move back to the presentation. Just one moment. Okay, for baseline setting and outcome measurement, we'll talk about agency V&V goals first. On December 16, 2016, and then every year thereafter, each agency will run data anomaly reports, as Lalitha showed, to determine the total number of anomalies in its fiscal year 2016 data submission. An agency's FY 2017 data submission must demonstrate that the agency has resolved 100% of the anomalies from the 100% anomaly resolution every year. To monitor this process, on October 15, 2017, and then every year thereafter, GSA will close the V&V period and monitor the percentage of each agency's resolved FY 2016 anomalies in order to ensure that they meet the 100% threshold for the initial year. GSA will repeat this process each subsequent year, analyzing agencies' progress toward the resolution target and the total number of anomalies government-wide. So how do you demonstrate B&B compliance and certification of real property reporting? To enhance the accuracy and completeness of the data reported to FRPP-MS, each agency shall submit to GSA each year a certification letter that meets the following requirements. It must be signed by the agency chief financial officer, characterize the accuracy of the data the agency submitted to FRPP-MS, and the methodology the agency used to evaluate the accuracy of the data. Must describe efforts currently employed or planned as part of the agency's independent verification and validation process in order to improve the accuracy and completeness of FRPP data. Must indicate that the agency has implemented data validation and verification as required by OMB Management Procedures Memorandum, improving federal real property data quality, required data validation and verification procedures, as well as GSA Federal Real Property Data Validation and Verification Guidance, which was issued in May 16, 2016. And finally, it must report actions taken by the agency to comply with requirements of the V&V guidance. As Lolita mentioned, the agency's data anomaly trending report must also be submitted along with a certification letter that meets all the requirements I just described. Details regarding the due date of the certification, as well as a template for the certification, can be found in the FRPP Data Dictionary. And there is a link to the Data Dictionary on the homepage of FRPP-MS application. So for the technical support information, please contact the FRPP-MS Help Desk via email or by phone, and this information will be sent to you after this training, so you'll have it on hand. And when you're logging a ticket, please include your name, contact information, the steps you're trying to complete, and if possible, a screenshot or screenshots of your problem. And these tickets will be logged and resolved accordingly. Resources that are available to you, and I believe Chris will be sending these out as well, and they're also linked on the homepage of the application. These resources include the FRPP-MS V&V guidance, the V&V user guide, and the data dictionary that I just mentioned. So now we're going to wrap up and see if there are any additional questions.
I've just unmuted everybody, so please feel free to, you can start asking your questions directly. You do not have to type them in the Q&A pod anymore.
Or Chris, if there's anything that you want to elaborate on, feel free to do that as well.
Right. Does anybody have questions on the phone?
Yeah, this is Mary Ann. I just have a question about having all of the certifications go through the CFO and there's absolutely no mention of the senior real property officers. Why are we cutting the senior real property officers out of this loop entirely?
I believe it was a management decision to get the CFO involved in the process. Certainly the senior real property officer can consult, but they wanted
I know.
I think they see it differently.
Yeah.
You know, all I can do is relay what their thoughts were. So, I mean,
No, I understand.
feel free to raise it with those officials.
Yeah, I
Okay.
will.
Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, Chris, this is Andy Duran.
Yes.
Is this going to be part of the FedStat meeting agenda too this year?
I do not know the answer to that.
There's a major issue or large numbers of anomalies that trigger it.
We haven't talked about that specifically. Certainly be a focus. It might be mentioned,
Yeah.
but we can certainly ask the question of OMB if there's an intent to discuss data quality.
Right. I was just looking for some context because we
We can certainly ask.
Any other questions?
Anybody else on the phone?
No.
Yeah, I wanted to raise some issues that were brought up yesterday and potentially get some feedback from this group. One of the points that was brought up was the universe of people who have access to running the reports as well as the actual resolution of the anomalies. The development of this automated tool was done almost at the same time as the policy was being developed. And there was no input from agencies other than sending the policy out for comment. So one of the points raised yesterday was somehow increasing the people who could access it. So within an agency, the current roles are agency admin, who has full functionality to do A to Z within the agency. Right users who see uploaded data. Data submission users who see data that has been staged but not uploaded. And then obviously the last role being read-only. So the discussion went in one of two frames. The first preference is for GSA to add another role, and for sake of anything else, since we haven't really gone very far, we just called it VNV role. So if someone has access to VNV, that allows them to run the reports and resolve the anomalies. The other frame of the discussion was assigning the ability to access the VNV to one of the existing roles. Obviously, agency admin already has access to it, so we're really looking at the remaining roles being right users, data submission users, and read-only users. So for those of you joining today, do you have any thoughts? First, ability for VNV to one of the already existing roles. Are you content with leaving it as it is for your agency, at least, with just being the agency admin performing those functions?
Chris, this is Mary Ann. Mine would stay the same. It'll be agency admin only.
Okay. And we would then, and I also should elaborate, we would develop it so that you can choose. If you want it to be status quo, it can be status quo. Or if you need that flexibility to have more people involved, again, depending on the ultimate alternative that we would implement, you'd have that flexibility, just as you do with the data submission process. So you can make it as centralized or decentralized as you want. So, but we just wanted to get feedback from other people. And we have not had a chance to discuss this with our developers, so that's why I'm just trying to get feedback to guide our discussion with the developers, because we don't. Andy, I don't know, do you have any preference?
Well, I probably need to consult with NOAA to see how they want theirs set up, because I think they have some people that will have right responsibilities. They may want resolution responsibility too.
Okay. Anybody else on the phone want to chime in?
No.
All right. And certainly, Andy, if you need to go back and talk with other people, feel free to send me an email or call me in the next week or so.
Will do.
And same for everybody else. And we also discussed the potential of reconvening a group to discuss this in obviously much more detail than we are today. And at that point, we would have our developers on board, and they can participate in the discussion as well, because they may have feedback that we haven't considered in terms of other alternatives or approaches, and I'll say unintended consequences of certain alternatives that may guide the ultimate resolution of changes in terms of access roles to this tool. We previously talked about the number of records being increased. Lalitha, can you go back and pull up that screen?
One moment, let me stop sharing this.
Okay.
Which one would you like me to show, Chris?
The BNZ, the one where you detail, and I kind of responded to Mary Ann in the Q&A section of the screen. Hopefully everybody got that. But we will send instructions that will allow you to increase the number of records up to 200, which is what I've been told is the Salesforce maximum. So
clicking the little box on the left of the action button right now automatically allows the user to select all 25 anomalies, but Chris will be sending instructions on how to increase that number to 200.
So the other point that was brought up by users yesterday, right now you can filter on the you can filter on the anomalies being shown by clicking the box here. And if you want, you could just select, and Lisa, you can just pick one. I don't know if there'll be any, but
Here's one. And I can show it just for GSA. So this is an anomaly. These are data anomalies by the least cost per square foot office anomaly. These are data anomalies only by this report category, least cost per square foot office. And there are, I believe, 186 anomalies in this category. So if you remember, there were 488 anomalies in total for GSA, but 186 of those belong to the least cost per square foot office anomaly category, report category.
So, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to pass it on to you to further elaborate.
So you can do it by category. If you know all of a certain anomaly category are affirmed to have correct data, that's the way that you can resolve more than an anomaly at a time. Whereas another category might have a mix of anomalies that are correct but also have errors. And obviously there you've got to go through and select which ones belong to the affirmed to be correct and which ones belong to error corrected in the system. But there was also a request, and again, this is from more of the agencies that are decentralized. They had asked for the ability to filter down to a specific bureau. So if I am, like Andy, you said, commerce. If I'm commerce and I want to resolve the anomalies just for NOAA, and then at another time come back and deal with another your bureau, Census Bureau, or others. Right now, all you have is the ability at an agency level. So we are investigating alternatives to allow you to filter on more than just the agency and the anomaly category. So we'll obviously we got to talk to the developers, come up with some alternatives, and figure out what's the best for the user community.
So it looks like someone has raised their hand.
Another question is, for example, for FY16, so for this calendar year, when we are go ahead to make the corrections for those anomalies, for the following year, let's look at the FY17. For the ones that we know that there are affirmed, they are always correct. Now, what the changes that we made in FY16, would they carry over to the following years?
Yes, with a proviso. If you go and resolve an anomaly, I'm sorry, who's that?
Oh, this is Howie.
Oh, no. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought somebody else was trying to chime in. But besides you, Howie. I guess not. Yes, if you affirm that anomaly is correct, as long as you do not change the underlying data element in FY17, the anomaly will remain resolved. So Lolita has the least cost per square foot. And granted, this screen doesn't show the underlying lease cost and square footage, and it's a little hard for me to, let me see if I can blow one up, but
let me pull up the actual report, Chris, that actually shows the and we're
you got to go back and do this GSA.
yeah, I have to put GSA, and well, we're showing the 2015 number, so that's not, it's not the upper and lower limit. Let me change that as well. So it takes a couple of seconds to change that. Actually, this is correct. Chris, if you want to
Yeah, so if you can scroll down. So that first line, the rent, I'm sorry, the lease O&M on the first line is 947,000 and change. The lease rent is 3.8 million, and the square footage is that those costs and square footage are correct. And for 2016, as long as you report those same numbers in 2017, the anomaly will remain resolved. Let's just, again, assume that in 2017, square footage remains the same, the rent remains the same, but your O&M costs go up to, let's say, $1 million. All right. Change the underlying lease cost per square foot beyond the $50.38 a square foot. That would, in fact, create an anomaly that needs to be resolved.
Got it.
Change the underlying data that causes it to be out of range. If you were to leave all of those the same, then yes, the data would remain resolved.
Okay, it looks like Dean has a question. Go ahead, Dean.
Yeah, hi. Staying on that topic, and if you're dealing with a lease and you have the annual rent to lessor, every year there's an escalation of the rent based on a pre-negotiated escalation. So if we resolve it, but then the rent goes up by a couple of percentage points, would that kick it back out into the unresolved because it changes the lease cost per square?
Yes, it would kick it back out into being unresolved.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So that's going to happen with all of our leases.
Chris,
Yes.
Chris, Andy Duran, I have another question. If I think you're looking at, and the trigger is if you're out of the bounds of cost per square foot. So if it had the opposite effect, if you were able to cut the operating costs or cut the area and the rent dropped, it wouldn't trigger that again. So even though you resolved it, it would just go back to the normal stuff that's not an anomaly too.
You are correct, and that's the opposite. Now, for my example, I increased the O&M cost to make sure that, you know, the cost per square foot would still be out of range. But yes, if you dropped your O&M cost by, who knows what circumstances would create that, but, or if your rent dropped for some reason, and the underlying cost per square foot went from $50.38 to, you know, $44 a square foot. And in that case, yes, Andy, even though you're changing the underlying data elements because the end result of cost per square foot is less than the $45.70 per square foot, then it would not even show up as an anomaly to resolve. I think that's the point you were making, Andy.
Yeah. You know, it might lead, I think, downstream to looking at it at MSA level, because some areas will just notoriously be high, like New York City and DC.
You're correct. We can consider that for future iterations.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions related to, you know, how anomalies either remain resolved or unresolved? in future years? Or any other questions? I mean, this is kind of open period. All right, another point that was brought up was the timing of the anomaly resolution period versus the certification letter. So obviously your data comes in by December 15th. The resolution period for the VNV tool starts December 16th and runs through October of 2017. The certification letter has to be sent in March. Unless you have very few anomalies, you will not be able to resolve 100% of the anomalies by the time the CFO certification letter comes in March. And OMB and GSA understand that. We still want, and actually, can you go back, Rachel, Ethan, and share the screen for that trending report? Either the PowerPoint or the actual tool, whichever is easier for you to pull up. Okay, so we still want you to attach a copy of the trending report to accompany the certification letter. That will show us at the time what your agency's progress is between December and March. Then, and again, skipping ahead a year, we will want you with your 2018 certification letter in March. You would run the anomaly trending for 2017 data to show 100% resolution. And you would run the trending report for your 2017 data to show the progress that you are making on any new anomalies that may pop up. Again, either because you've added assets that have underlying anomalies, or, as we previously just discussed, anomalies that may have been resolved a year ago become anomalies again in 2017 because your underlying data changed, which creates an anomaly that has to be resolved. And obviously there will be follow-up from GSA in October of 2017 when the resolution period ends. Obviously GSA will be running these reports for each agency and ensuring that they're at the 100% resolution threshold, you know, basically that you've resolved all of your anomalies for your 2016 data. And obviously if an agency is not at 100%, there'll be discussions. So, the other thing that I mentioned yesterday in terms of the anomaly resolution, this functionality in terms of anomalies and resolving them was discussed last week at a House Oversight Government Reform Committee hearing that GSA, OMB, GAO, USDA testified on. And again, the Hill asked questions. You're producing all of these tools to kind of strategically look at the inventory, but if the underlying data is incorrect, you know, what's the value? So, and GAO certainly pointed out again, you know, you need tool, and again, especially measuring the percentage or number of anomalies that in fact contained errors and were resolved, they'll be looking at once we get through the 2016 process. So they'll want to see how many anomalies there were, how many of those were affirmed to be correct data, and how many of those obviously had errors. And I'm sure they will be following up with certain agencies to ensure that the underlying data was in fact changed when the 2017 data comes in. So, you know, I can see where this is going. So it is imperative for agencies to go through the process. And one, that we have those measurable results, and two, that it withstands GAO scrutiny. Any other questions? All right. We will be sending the slide deck. A couple people had asked for some of the other documents, the data dictionary, the VNV guidance, as well as the user guide. I will be sending that out to the invitee list Monday morning for your reference, just in case for some reason you didn't receive it previously. We will be working, once we have the vendor on board, for the data submission training. If you have staff who are unfamiliar, I would encourage them to use the training videos, and that's located on the FRPP MS tab within the system. On the left-hand side, there are links to the training videos. And certainly once the training is developed and dates and times are set, we'll share that, with everybody. We'll try and get that done and available to people in October. With that, unless there are any other questions, we appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot.
All right.